Officer Dobbs, nice to see you. We'd like to welcome everyone online and in public here to the regular meeting of the Linn-Mar Community School Board. My name is Barry Buckholz. We'd like to welcome all the cabinet here and the two ladies that we have in the audience. Thanks for coming. We appreciate it. We need to determine a quorum, please. Here.
Here. Here. Here.
Here. Determine a quorum. Thank you very much. Just a couple comments. Laura Thomas has COVID, and she was going to try to Zoom in, but she is just too ill and just said she apologized. She can't be here. And Rachel could not be here tonight as well. So we do have a quorum, so we're absolutely fine. We need to approve the agenda as presented.
I move to approve the agenda as presented. Second.
Motion by Katie, second by Britt. Any questions or any comments? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Did you say something?
I said aye.
Okay, I heard something over. This room kind of echoes a bit, so my apologies. So the other night, Melissa was talking, and honest to God, I thought she was over here. She raised her hand once. Okay, anybody sign up to speak? Nope, we're all good. Thank you. Okay, we made a decision as a leadership team that we thought maybe a good time to start the meeting would be, especially with all of our audience communications, et cetera, we would start with just a mission moment. And this is something for the future. You can say something tonight if you would like, but it's for the future. And really what we want to talk about is any positive you saw in the district this week. And so moving forward, we're going to try to have this at every session. And as you remember what our mission statement is, inspire learning, unlock potential, and empower achievement. So if there's anything you want to talk about, me personally, I just want to comment, to go to a session, and Nathan is not here, so he can't speak. But probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, I asked him how he was doing. His comment was, he says, Barry, I feel more prepared right now, more ready for the class, for the season to start than I ever have. He said, I don't know why that is, but it was just kind of, as he called it, a normal summer, even though you're all displaced. And then, of course, the second item is I just feel last Monday was tremendous. I just love that session. The speaker, the comments were good. Everything was good. And I'm just ready for a good year. I was a little disappointed today that Alliant Energy got us, but that's just part of the process. It's still for the process and just the way it works, and everybody worked through it. They were just about 15 minutes late though, right? Doing it. If they'd have done a little sooner, it would have helped the leadership having to send another email out. So Melissa, you have some comments?
Yeah. One of the things that I have just noticed over these past few weeks is the enthusiasm and passion that our staff have had moving into the school year. Whether it's early mornings or late nights or weekends or the middle of the day before the contract started, every time I drove past a school building, I would see cars in the parking lots. And on social media, I have lots and lots of teacher friends and staff friends that work in other departments of the district, and continually just seeing them talking about their excitement for the school year to start. And I very rarely saw any kind of like, oh, the school year is about to start. It was all just really positive thoughts about, I can't wait to see our kids again, and I can't wait for my classroom to be full of, these bright smiling faces. And just goes to show how much love and care these people have for the kids in our district, and just makes me feel really good to know how much excitement there is for them to have the kids filled around them, and how much they love being around our kids.
Anybody else?
I have got kind of a two-parter. I went to the open house on last Thursday for Boulder Peak, Settle In, my son, and the environment was just busy, 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 but happy. And there were, administrators and everybody at the door welcoming people, and our volunteer coordinators were there. But all of the kids seemed excited to be there, and excited to find their locker and find their classroom and all of that. My second part, well, maybe it's a three-part because now I'm thinking when I was there, um, my son's classroom is in one of the pods that is now also um, tentative space for you guys. And so I got to, like Nathan is right next to his classroom. And so I popped in and kind of saw the working arrangement and how everyone is really making, I mean, three people in each corner, making it all work. So kudos to you guys for making that. It's like a giant cubicle, but good job. But my real second part is the community. Over the last 3 weeks, I really noticed an uptick in the community being excited for the start of the school year and reaching out to teachers. How can we help you? Where are your lists? How can we help you get your classrooms ready? How can we support you this year? And I always love that about our community and how they step up and they come out and they don't wait for us to ask for help. Not that we ever do. Our teachers really try and get done all by themselves, but I saw a lot of community members coming together for every single building and saying, "How can we help?" And it started at the beginning of August. They didn't wait till the week before school started. So there's my happy moment.
All good? So in the future, feel free, oops, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll share one real quick. I was sitting in the parking lot at Unity Point at Tower Terrace, and I saw some Linn-Mar cross country runners running past.
This
Right?
morning?
No, this was about a week ago, but hadn't had a chance to share it. And I didn't hear much of the conversation, but what I heard was the younger kid in the group of about four of them say something that he was concerned about, and I heard the tallest in the group say, "Oh, don't worry, man, we got you covered." And without even knowing anything else in the context, to know that relationships like that happen, and we see it, but until you hear it, we know it happens, but until you see it, and it's just without knowing anything else, that said right there, good things are happening. There you go.
The runners had to run this morning at 5:30, by the way, so they prepared early, so. Yeah.
I have one more. This is more of a behind the scenes one, but Barry and I had our leadership meeting this week with Amy, and we were kind of talking about all the logistics that were happening behind the scenes with before and after a board meeting, and before and after team meetings with the cabinet, and before and after the staff meetings, and the addition of Renee and how much that has brought to our district, having that additional position to be able to help make sure that our community knows what's happening in this district, and to help our parents and families know um, how to sign up for school and the convenience of making sure that they have what they need in order to get ready for school at the beginning of the year, and for our teachers to know what's happening during the day. And even today, seeing the emails of, we think we're going to have a full day, oh wait, no we're not, and just the seamlessness of communication that's come about because of that added position. So thank you, we really appreciate it, and it has contributed to mission.
Okay. As we move forward, I appreciate it. Just a quick comment too. We were going to have Nathan talk about the assessment data at the next meeting. We're now going to wait till September 23rd. Just the main thing is the availability of the data, so we don't do something halfway and incomplete. So just so you put that on your schedule moving forward. Um, City Council. Now, I didn't take the time to look at the schedule, so Laura's not here, so I'm assuming. So I guess we'll just move past that. Superintendent, oh, we're talking about the open enrollment in and out. And this is a survey we've been kind of looking for. And as we prepare for this, and Superintendent Courtmeyer comes up, and we believe we have a great staff. We have fantastic facilities. We provide a great learning opportunity for all of the students. We want to continue to create a district and school environment where families are proud to send their students. We're always interested in feedback. We're interested in hearing from the specific families to help us to improve our conditions moving forward. And we'll use this data to ensure broad spectrum of perspectives moving forward. While the Linn-Mar district saw a decline of 118 students this year, it comes on the heels of the district's highest enrollment we've ever had as a district. And we know that there's size of a school where people want to go to a smaller school, whether it's academically, whether it's athletically, and we know that's going to happen. We know there's families that want to take their kids to private schools, whether it's religious or whatever it is, and we know that's going to happen. Those are out of our control. So now we'll use the data that we'll see here in a few minutes to hopefully bring that forward.
Thank you, President Buckles. Just for a little bit more background, you did a great job at providing a segue there. Last year, with our open enrollment in and out numbers, we were seeing, as far as our certified enrollment, we had 614 students open enrolling into the district and 876 enrolling out. So we had several conversations over the course of the year about an interest in surveying our families to understand why they're choosing Linn-Mar and maybe why they're not choosing Linn-Mar. We ended up expanding that to a larger subset, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But when you think about open enrollment trends in the district, prior to the last few years, we really saw a wash when it came to open enrollment in or out. We weren't gaining more students, but we had plateaued. If you go all the way back, and that was true to about 2013. But prior to that, we did have a divide with about 256 students, more students out in that 2012 school year than in. So this has been something we've seen in the past, but we can't improve unless we know, what folks are thinking or saying, and that was our aim in doing these surveys. The distribution lists for these surveys were compiled for both open enrolled in and out way back to 2011, 2012 academic school year, all the way to present day. We didn't have every single parent email on file, particularly for homeschool assistance program, because there's a couple different types of homeschool program where we might not even know a family is in the district homeschooling, so we wouldn't have their information. And then with the educational savings accounts or the vouchers, certainly families that had been with us in prior years, we have that information, but if they would have enrolled straight to the private school, we wouldn't have necessarily had their information. But in doing so, then we're going to segue into sharing first about our enrollment in surveys, the amount of folks that we surveyed, our response rate, and what we found. And then and Renee's going to do that, and I'll come back with the enrollment out.
So as Amy mentioned, we had 2 surveys that we administered to our key stakeholders. I'm going to summarize for you some of the trends or feedback that we received from the enrollment in surveys. First, I do want to be mindful of our small sample size. You can see we did send it to 452 families that enrolled into the district. It was only completed by 34 of those families. So we certainly want to review this for opportunities for improvement and also weigh it against the small amount of voice that we had when we were hoping for a little larger participation. You can also see we're further reduced from perspective because 56% of those 34 respondents actually enrolled before 2020. So that again changes the landscape of when they made this decision. It doesn't at all discount their feedback, and we really appreciate those who did participate. And the top reasons for enrollment included academic opportunities and the district's reputation. In addition to those top influencers and making their enrollment decision, the other factors that they filled out either in an open-ended comment or otherwise, the quality of our teaching staff, our college and career readiness opportunities, and the district's state-of-the-art facilities. And they had high levels of satisfaction with the choice that they made. You'll see that 64.5% of the respondents indicated a 5 out of 5 level of satisfaction with that decision. We also had favorable comments on the opportunities provided to students and our supportive and helpful staff. Some respondents did express concern with the size of the high school, and I put this in quotes, educational structure at that level. When we dug into the feedback, it was really parental feedback on the challenge of scheduling a period versus a block, and sometimes they couldn't get into everything that they were interested in. And 4 individuals did share individual encounters with staff that weren't favorable.
Thank you, Renee. Now we'll segue to the enrollment out survey information. And again, the first thing we want to point out is our sample size. We did send this out to 703 families enrolled out of the district. Again, we think started with the idea that we were going to email our open enrolled out families, but we ended up capturing, like I shared earlier, those families that took the educational savings accounts information that we had, as well as families who homeschooled. So in all, we sent it to 703 families and did get responses from 121. About 26.5% of those respondents enrolled out of the district during the 22-23 school year, and about almost 29% enrolled out before 2020. And then key findings from those that are enrolled out, about 44% of those respondents left to attend another public school, 34 shifted to homeschooling, and 21% left to attend a private school. So again, that's of the 120 families. So key findings, we've grouped this then by that decision. 44% that attended another public school, the number one factor contributing to that decision was the concern about either the size of the district or the size of classes. For those that homeschooled out, roughly 34% of the responses that we got there, they were feeling that the programs and services were better supported in the homeschool environment. And then for the 21% that responded about going to a private school, they were interested in the benefits that a private school experience could provide. Some other findings, now we're going to get specifically again to those three different types. For the homeschool environment, beyond what was already shared, many made the decision based on either philosophical or ideological political decisions or differences or concerns with previous board decisions. Others commented on experiences specific to their individual child. For our families who elected a different public school, the size of the district, of course, we've talked about in the previous slide. Many made the decision based again on philosophical differences. Others commented on maybe an experience that their individual child had. And then some noted concerns with either building or teacher communication. And for those that have elected a private school, again, you'll see this come up. They did that based on maybe differences in political differences, maybe again, experience with their child, or a school board decision as their reason for electing a different option. So as we close out, we certainly want to make sure that we're being reflective and think about what our next steps are. Again, feedback is super important to us. We do want to make sure that we're reviewing all of this information with our district leadership team, and that will happen next. And we'll think about what this means for any further building or district improvements. We see a nice segue or alignment here with that first area of the strategic plan when we think about community engagement. And so as we think about writing our building school improvement goals this year, that's something for us to be cognizant of, and how can we use these reports to align that and make our own goals there. Again, we're cognizant of the small sample size, but we are super appreciative of those individuals that we did hear from.
So as Amy mentioned, you'll see some of this feedback and did inform what you received last board meeting related to our 24-25 strategic plan. In area 1.3 and 1.4, you'll see reflected in there our interest in not only evaluating this feedback, but also looking at the landscape and saying, what survey data do we currently have from stakeholders? Is there a gap in our data? Do we need to evaluate a different tool to make sure that we're accomplishing all that we need to do when we're gathering feedback and using it to inform our decisions? So 1.3 talks about feedback loops from key stakeholders. That feedback loop may or may not be a survey. We purposely left it somewhat open-ended so we can think about other ways that we can get feedback so we don't fatigue our stakeholders with lots of surveys. And then 1.4 is, again, lots of data sources, and we expect to use that to inform our communication effort and our operational decision making. Going forward, one of the next steps is going to be sharing this with our leadership team, as Amy mentioned, and also evaluating what we have in place and where those gaps lie. And with that, we'd take questions.
I don't have a question. I just have a more of a continuation. I think it would be really beneficial to start sending this survey out every time someone open enrolls in and out. And then at the end of the year, how many did we get, or at the end of the period, so that it can become just a continual feedback. Someone fills out the form and we ask them why, regardless of if it's in or out, because that's easier than creating, a 10 or 12 year list and trying to find emails for everybody. So that's my comment. I appreciate the work that went into this. I know it was part of our year one strategic plan. So, that's a check on things that we've said, but I think we should continue to look at this on an annual basis.
If we are sending that out as people enroll in or out, would that impact the confidentiality of the data?
Mm.
Because right now they're not including names, correct? It's administered all at once for everybody. I just don't know if that.
We actually did collect names through the distribution of the survey, and we could link it back, and we chose
Okay.
not to.
Okay.
But that way we were able to ensure that we were sampling the right population. And that it
Did they
wasn't-
have the option of including their name if they wanted to have follow up?
So
They
do you wanna-
absolutely
Do
could.
you want to differentiate between what we actually did with in versus out and remind everybody why we ended up doing that? Yeah, we just had some sharing of the link when we originally administered the survey. And while that's helpful, we wanted to be sure we knew who was giving us that feedback. So we did go back and only send it to a select group and indicate that their name could be associated with that data. So that was a difference for the enroll out survey than the enroll in survey, which was completed anonymously. You could absolutely, though, say, if you want to share your name and allow us to follow up with you, we could absolutely do that too.
I agree with that if I can, just to insert, just because then we're not closing the door.
Mhm.
Because it's important if somebody feels at least safe enough to say, this is what's happened to me, and we say we're taking this seriously, doing more than we heard you, but would you like to continue that dialogue would be important. I love this work, and I think that as you originally reveal it, there's so much precise data, especially the response, the large pool, and then who actually responded. I would be leery of words like many and some and go ahead and put back in the data that's there, because we know that many and some can tell a different story, or a story that may not be as precise. You took the time to do all this data. I would just present it, even if it's bothersome to you, constantly referring back to the data that we actually collected.
Good. I'd agree with Katie. That's a really good assessment. I remember when this was first being baited and thought about how we were going to implement it, and we had a lot of questions. You did good. You did excellent. The questions that were asked, the request for help from the outside, so that we could have that more independent view. um I wish that more people would give us feedback, but that's the thing. I get requests for survey when it seems like I buy a hamburger from McDonald's and they're like, please fill out this 10-minute survey. So I get it, so people are surveyed out, but that's a great way we get feedback. So you did great. I really appreciate that. I love the narrative, because coming into the board, I had questions about just what do people think, and I've heard lots of different stories, and so this started to actually put meat to it, and it's a lot of what I thought, which is that, hey, the state opens up the change, people are going to make changes regardless of what's going on, and they might use some noise as a reason to do that. So I thought that the survey again was really good. We need to keep it up. So thank you.
I think your point about being tired of surveys is well taken. And I think that emphasizes sending it out when people fill out the forms, because it's on their mind. They want to get paperwork filled out. They want to make sure their kid is where they want them to be. So if that survey is part of that process, and not just an email a year or 2 or 3 later, I think that fits right into what you're saying, Justin.
I know this was a ton of work for a small number of responses, so thank you for the work that you put into it. And I just wanted to make note for us that some of the responses are things that we really don't have control over, because, and I think we need to keep that in mind as we're looking at this in terms of what is the data really saying to us, because there is a place for public schools, there's a place for private schools, there is a place for us to, as a community, have the right fit of schools for every person's need, but we as a public school system need to make sure that we are sticking true to our mission and our values, which includes being inclusive of all of the needs of a public school system, which means everybody has a place here, and that means that some people might not um, want to be here because there's another system that works better for them, and that's okay. And we need to be okay with that, knowing that some of the reasons that people are going to enroll out might not feel the greatest to us, but that's because there's something that's better for them. And our public school system isn't supposed to be the perfect fit for everybody, but we need to be accessible to everybody and have services that are going to meet the needs of everybody. So as I was looking through those and as you guys were sharing, I only saw one or two things that were like, oh, I know that we need to be paying attention to this because this is something that we really truly have control over as a public school district, and we need to be paying attention to that and drilling into that and figuring out what that's about. And I know that those things are things that we already have been as a district paying attention to. So I feel pretty good overall about that data.
Yep, all good comments. Thank you very much. Thank you for the report. I just have one quick question. Does it mean much to us where the homeschooling children go to school? Are they part of our program or are they part of, does it make any difference?
There's 3 different kinds of homeschooling, so they might be at home with the parent. They also might be part of our program. They could be open enrolled out to a different homeschool program as well. So,
Okay, that
if
was
you
just a
want,
quick
we can come
question.
back with a more detailed
That's not important.
explanation.
Just popped into my head.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Superintendent Courtmeyer, you're on the clock yet.
Well, hello again, everyone. We're excited to welcome our students back to school last Friday and also today. It's fun to be right in the heart of it with all of the cabinet's offices and our larger LRC team being housed at Boulder Peak right now and Hazel Point. I had one teacher say to me that she hoped things wouldn't be too loud for us. And I told her that you and they are the reason that we're all here. So it's super fun to be in the buildings. And of course, we're coming off of an early dismissal that President Buckles was alluding to earlier, just this afternoon. We had been in touch, all through Sunday, trying to make our plans and moving practices indoors or to the mornings and things. And we had just sent out messages to leadership team and staff that, about what we were doing there and just a reminder about Alliant, thinking that we're going to have a normal school day. And it was soon thereafter where we got word. So I just really want to show my appreciation for our parents, staff, and the students for being flexible this afternoon. And we're all watching the weather again. We did include in that parent note that, we could hear something again from Alliant tomorrow. So kind of just have everybody stay tuned there. Um, I also wanted to share just some early kids in seats numbers with everyone. Again, this is kids in seats numbers, not certified enrollment. We'll look at certified enrollment numbers. That happens on October 1st. But as expected, our early figures are showing that our kids in seats numbers are rebounding from last year. We expected to see numbers maybe fluctuate with the educational savings accounts or vouchers, but we were positive that the trajectory over the long term will continue to show growth. And as of today, this will change on a daily basis, but as of today, we look to be up in kids in seats numbers by about 43 students compared to last year at this time where we were hovering around about a negative 130 for kids in seats. So I don't want to confuse anybody that this is not certified enrollment, but we are excited to see that positive shift in our numbers. And speaking of enrollment, we know that we've been through the budget cuts last year and over a 2-year period are in the middle of reducing $5.5 million from our general fund budget. And we had to make some hard decisions over the last few years. And whether it's been cuts to curriculum, transportation routes, or staffing, we knew that we were going to continue to need to implement that this year. And we publicly shared that we would likely have to increase class size. But I want to share today that we've continued to watch our elementary class sizes since enrollment began and opened in early August. And our average class sizes range at the elementary level from 19.77 students in first grade to 23.5 in fourth. So those are averages, and of course they fluctuate and are different across the district. Um, our larger class sizes, we talked about kind of not wanting to be more than 26. We do have one section as of today, or one grade level out at 27. So we are in decent shape. Just a reminder, the reason for the budget situation that we found ourselves in was just historic underfunding over a 10-year period of school supplemental state aid and loss of COVID dollars, and then a dip in enrollment last year. So we're going to work hard to implement those cuts this year. Class sizes, of course, they're always on everybody's mind, but I think we're in good shape overall there. And then communications, something exciting out of the communications department that the Marion public will see, and we are launching with the City of Marion as well as Marion Independent School District a couple of opportunities this year to be part of their Marion Messenger newsletter that goes out to all households in the 52302 zip code on a quarterly basis. So again, we've purchased a few pages along with Marion, and we're excited to reach all of our stakeholders. As far as an attendance update, the board has been updated, and staff, our administration, our secretaries, our attendance facilitators, and then our larger staff and families, we've got changes coming with, of course, the new attendance law. So we've tried to work hard, and we'll continue to work hard to communicate that. If we think about attendance, students are either coded as present or absent. And when a student is coded as absent, in the past, we've thought of it in terms of excused or unexcused. And now with the new law, students are either considered exempt or non-exempt. So we'll continue to work through that, but we've got markers at 10%, 15%, and 20% when students are missing days that we will be getting to our families. And it's needs to be seen as a partnership. We know students will do better academically when they're in school and in session with us. So we're excited to partner with our families on that. Lots of meetings prepping for the school year. We have had new teacher orientation and luncheon. Grant Wood AEA has been doing some kickoff meetings around ed and media services. President Buckholz talked about our district kickoff event at Faith Life Lutheran Church. They hosted us to be able to, we used their facilities last week. We had special speaker Dr. Tina Bugren in to talk about staff wellness. And then professional development was held through the course of last week. There was a teacher work day, and then we welcome students on Friday. As far as our facilities projects, ongoing work is happening there, of course, with our high school extension. The contractors are continuing to finish up here and there. We've got students in the building, though. At the new activity center, schematic concepts are being developed. And they will meet with us again on September 4th. Remember that is happening in a small group right now. We'll shift back to that larger stakeholder group that we met with at the end of February and March, I would say October-ish. And our performance venue, they're forming and pouring foundation walls. Their backfilling is nearly complete, and they're drywalling the new restrooms. That's ongoing. Administration building, we were just over there a week ago, a couple of us, and it's really starting to come together now. Lots of the painting is done, and curtain wall framing installations happening. The freezer assembly is ongoing. Patios and sidewalks are poured. We've got the "We Are Linn-Mar" signs installed, so that's exciting. We've got furniture that's scheduled to come in September, and we'll be moving on in there shortly. Some upcoming events then. In September, on Monday, of course, we're closed for Labor Day. We've got conferences already for the high school on the 19th. The foundation is having their Dine Out for Schools Day on the 19th also. And if you can believe it, the homecoming parade is on the 25th at 5 o'clock. And then we have no school on the 30th for a professional learning day. That I'd take any questions.
I just have a request. The communication that went out about the 2-hour delay today, the one to staff was fantastic about reminding them we do this thing with Alliant. We think it's going to be a normal day. If that could have gone out to parents yesterday so that parents could be reminded about the Alliant partnership, I think that would have been helpful.
Yep.
I appreciate that it was in the follow-up announcement of the dismissal today, but especially once Cedar Rapids decided to close last night early. I just think that reminding parents that, because a lot of them don't know about Alliant, and so they think that we just waited till the last minute and then made a snap decision. So
I had the same exact reflection today, Brett.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Speaking of the Alliant thing, and since I work for Alliant, I'll say it's based off a temperature trigger.
Yeah.
And today we were right there, and so like a half a degree lower, and it wouldn't have triggered. So I get not doing the proactive, this, like a different district did, is to cancel early because we wanted the kids in the district, but it was so close. It was right on the threshold today. So
Well, and I don't mind. I understand the delay or, when Alliant has to make that snap decision. I just think if parents had known, hey, this might happen tomorrow morning, it would have given them a little more notice that, oh, my kid might have to come home early. So
yeah,
that's Alliant has to make their decision when the grid tells them to make a decision. I totally understand.
yeah. No, I was just for the parents who
Yeah, appreciate the comments, because
Yeah, I also appreciate it is a partnership and to speak well of Alliant because they would not want to make this decision for anyone, but it keeps other businesses and we are in that partnership with them. Back to your report. I saw a state commentary about kindergarten students and that they are one of the largest group right now that are taking advantage of the access or the voucher program. Can you do you have any idea how many of that 43 plus we're doing for kindy, and do we know how our kindy numbers are doing? We know we have this growth in like fourth grade or whatever, but do we have how solid is our kindy, because that's going to follow us.
Yeah.
And if anything, we're going to see that number bounce back, I think, first and second grade. It may be a kindy only voucher, especially for solid preschool programs that expanded their programs and want to honor that they made that decision. But just throwing that out there, there was a state report that went out.
we'll probably know that more so in the future, but that's a very good question. Yeah, absolutely.
I can find that out for you, Katie, to see what our comparison is. Right now I have it building by building. I don't have it tabulated for kindergarten alone.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thanks for the
Welcome.
question. Anybody else? It's all good. Thank you. Unfinished business, 601, the second reading of the policy recommendation that we did the first reading 2 weeks ago.
Motion to approve the second reading of policy recommendations as presented in Exhibit 601.1.
Second.
Motion by Melissa, second by Katie. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. New business.
Motion to approve the purchase of a 2024 Super Duty F-250 pickup truck from Lynch Ford in Mount Vernon, Iowa for a total of $46,743.
Second.
Motion by Britt, second by Katie. Questions?
I went through the bids. It was good to see that we got some discounts from Fleet and whatnot. So that was a great job.
Thanks for your hard work, John. Appreciate it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Open enrollment requests.
Motion to approve the open enrollment requests as presented.
Second.
Motion by Katie, second by Britt. There were some questions. Superintendent Courtmeyer, could you kind of explain the late no cause, how the new law has changed and how things have come through there, please?
Yeah, so if you remember back to this legislative session, once again, open enrollment language and laws have changed. So the past few years, open enrollment out of a district was pretty much allowed. And as a receiving district, you had to accept individuals, but for a few reasons. That might be suspension or expulsion in the previous district due to class sizes, large class sizes. You're in your own district, you couldn't accept an individual. Oh gosh, I'm losing the third reason right now. Programming, lack of a program. So that's now shifted back to rules that families have to enroll by March 1st of each school year. If families try to enroll out after the March 1st deadline or after September 1st for kindergartners or preschoolers, there have to be a good cause reason. And those reasons are not reasons that Nathan and I drum up. Those reasons are stated in the handbook and by law. So as we look at these enrollment requests that come in or go out, after the deadlines, we have to go through that list of good cause reasons. And if a family does not meet one of those good cause exceptions, then they're either denied, or if they do meet it, they're allowed to go out.
Thank you for that explanation. I think it just, when you're looking at this agenda without that explanation, it just feels a little harsh. And I think that I recommended just a one-liner, what the states, that those are state wordings, not our own wording. Those are state categories, not our own categories. And our job is to filter that, not to decide that. It just seems a little harsh.
Yep. Okay, good comment. You have a
Just-
question?
Well, just for those keeping track at home, what this doesn't show is the students who have enrolled out but then come back.
Right.
So
That's always an intriguing one. Yeah.
yeah, so and there are a lot of those. I'm hearing lots of stories.
Okay.
That's a really good point. I just want to interject there because all of our resident families always have a right to be in our district, and we would not have them on this agenda. They can come back anytime.
Well, if we're doing reminders, it's always good to remind that once you're accepted in, you don't have to apply every year. So we won't see all 600 or whatever that number was. I wrote it down. 614 on the agenda, because once we accept them in, they don't have to apply every year.
Okay. Good comments. Motion by Katie, second by Britt. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda, please.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Melissa, second by Katie. Questions? All in favor, say aye.
I have a
Aye.
question.
Opposed?
Oh,
What's,
got a question?
I'm just concerned with the number of resignations that have been on the last few agendas for student support associates. I know the position is hard to fill, but it seems like we're seeing more leave than we are seeing. Is there concern or like what? I mean, obviously there's a concern, but is there any?
Workable solution.
Thank you. I'm losing my words. It's been a long
Probably.
day.
probably salaries.
Yeah, we are struggling. I would say last time we took an opportunity to count, we had 31 open positions in the district. There's constant hiring and resignations happening. So 31 doesn't mean that we're at that place today. But you've seen us share quite a bit of information this summer about opportunities for job fair, whether it was Aquatic Center at Indian Creek, different marketing that we've done through different Facebook pushes, radio ads. We've revamped the HR site to include a form, a shorter form for employees or potential employees to fill out. Sometimes we think maybe a hurdle is that application process is longer, so we've truncated that. We've tried referral bonuses, both for a staff member that's maybe connected us with somebody that we hire and or for that new hiree. So we welcome any and all ideas. I think one idea this morning that we talked about in cabinet is, even for folks that are could offer a few hours a week or part-time during the days, and whether that's parent population or even our high school students that might have some hours in their schedules. So those are the kinds of things that we're thinking about. Certainly it wouldn't hurt us to increase what we've are offering in salaries, but as we work through our negotiations this spring and the various employee groups that we offered our salaries out to, we were super happy that we got all employee groups up to $15 an hour. It's probably still not enough in this environment, so that's something we need to continue to work on. All the while, we're still trying to cut $5.5 million. So it is a struggle for us, and we'd welcome any ideas.
I don't question the efforts to hire people. I know you guys have been doing a great job of trying new things and all that. I'm just wondering if there is a consistent reason why people are leaving. It's not so much that the positions are open and we can't hire. It's resignations on the agenda that I'm just curious about.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, as part of our strategic plan work, you might remember in that fourth goal area around staff retention, we specifically laid out a goal around looking deeper into our special education, both teaching certified and classified staff members. And not only we have the upbeat survey information, but more importantly, we've got exit interview information there. And so Carla and her team have worked to sort through all of that. And what we're going to do as a cabinet in the next couple of weeks is actually go through an exercise and look at what that feedback looks like. I think from there, you'll see an action plan. And actually, we just talked about this at cabinet today. And I'm really going to challenge each cabinet member to think about our action plan. How could each member of our cabinet have some sort of responsibility? What could it be? I mean, it might have to be a stretch goal for some of our folks sitting around the table here. But that's what I wanted, that's what we want to do, and come up with an action plan. And then on October 30th, when we've got principals together with us again, we want to do a similar exercise with them. So as Carla has said to me often, if we can improve our retention rate around special education, that's going to improve our overall retention rate. So that is our work this year in that particular strategic plan goal area.
Is one of the data points on the exit surveys where they're going?
I have to ask Carla.
Yeah, we ask them mostly why, but a lot of them will say where.
Okay.
Just off the cuff. It's a combination of a lot of things. There's a lot of there's money, there's I didn't feel valued, there's all kinds of things. So that's what we're parsing out right now, and trying to come up with, like Amy said, an action plan to move forward.
I think one thing that might be interesting, and maybe this is just as we move forward, would be to be tracking also that piece of, are they going to a different district to do the same thing? And if so, is there something specific that other districts are doing to incentivize them to move there? What is that? Or are they going to nonprofits to do similar work? And if so, what is it that the nonprofit sector has that we don't have? And just kind of doing some analysis of there's multiple places where they can do similar work. And so if they're leaving to do similar work, um, what is it that might be incentivizing them to go somewhere else to do that same work? If they're going to do something completely different, then it's kind of irrelevant, but I'd be curious to know where they're going so that we could evaluate what those entities have to offer and what they're hearing about those entities that might be appealing.
Well, and I don't want to put you on the spot, so I'm not expecting an answer to this next question, but eventually, and eventually meaning sooner rather than later, I would like to understand, if we have 31 open student support associate positions, how are we filling what their role would be if we don't have people in those positions? And how is that impacting our classrooms and our students? So clearly, I don't want you to answer that right now because that's not fair, but I would like to learn more about how, like, the full picture of how we're looking at this gap.
Questions,
I think
good
it's something
comments?
that's happening all across the
Looks like we
community.
have a plan. Yeah, I had a young lady in my office today that was kitchen. She worked in the kitchen and just loved it, but she needed work this summer, so she gave it up last spring. It's just another one of those little stories that you hear. So, but
We're not alone.
we appreciate all your efforts. Thank you very much. So, we have a motion by Melissa, second by Katie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're down to calendar. I'd like to just touch on a few calendar dates if we can, please. Britt's taking care of the next council meeting, policy meeting, et cetera. One thing I wanted to point out is the Linn-Mar School Foundation Dine Out for Schools Day. Something was kind of intriguing to me. If you listened to the report last Monday, they made a little over $10,000 out of that this last year. And it's really, really critical if you go out for dinner to mention it before you order, so they can get it into the system. Otherwise, it gets lost in the shuffle. So we appreciate everybody's support there. Marion City Council's covered homecoming parade board visit Excelsior in September. So that's kind of our month of September pretty well set up for us. So
We have a board visit on the 12th to Hazel Point as well.
I'm sorry, missed that. We decided to cut Chad out. Anyway, so it's all set. So thank you. We have 2 of them in September. So appreciate it. Okay. It is 5:49.
Make a motion to adjourn at 5:49.
Second.
Motion by Justin, second by Katie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.